PTM Term 3 series. So we're going to look at 3 tools here. Almost finished with the basic tool palette. Clip, offset, clip tool here, offset tool here, and the attribute mapping. So the clip tool, if I do another one of those kind of objects. So I was playing with this a minute ago, so I had a hatch in it, but you'll see what I'm doing with that in a second. So the clip tool, there are internal, external, and split mode here, and we've got a rectangle, polygon, and circle. Hopefully it should be clear in a second. So with the rectangle mode, and I draw across here, the marquee that I just drew there, the rectangle, is chopped out of the shape. The external version here might be a bit odd. We'll chop off the stuff that's outside of the shape that I drew. Go back again, just doing Command Z, and then this one here, the third one, kind of splits it but leaves it as separate objects. Doesn't chop things out, just splits it. So these could be really useful. Again, really depending on what you're doing. I'm just Command Zing back to the object again. So we've got the rectangle. Sorry, the rectangle. There's a polygon tool and a circle mode. I mean, again, you can see. Hopefully, you can see what's happening if I just do that. I used the circle and I used the internal chop out. So you could make some pretty interesting shapes using that tool. The next tool I was going to do was the offset tool. So the offset tool, again, really useful. We've got options here with offset by distance and duplicate and offset, which is probably the most common ways of using this here. So if I want to make another shape that's inside the shape 200mm smaller, all I need to do is make sure the shape's highlighted, click inside it, and then that is another shape that's 200mm smaller. If I wanted to make one bigger, I just do it's the same offset tool, 200mm, and click on the outside of it, and I've made it bigger. Now there's an interesting thing happens here. It places that new object on top of the one that's below. If I take the fill off this, so there's no fill, you can see the object below. So that, with its fill, looked like the old object vanished, so it's one to be careful of. What we can do is use the modifiers of the send to back. So I can send this new object that I've just created. They will create on top of each, on top of the previous shape. But if I send it to the back, then you see that's now on the bottom or the furthest away from me, or you as you're looking onto the screen. Hope that makes sense. So that's on the front, that's further down, and that's at the back. Again, one more demo. If I could send that one to the back, send to back, it looked like it vanishes. See, but it's still there, it's just at the back. So hopefully that makes sense. Just get rid of these just now, go back to that one again, so the one that was I sent to the back there. The attribute mapping tool here is for use when we're using say hatches or things like that. So hatches or patterns or images or shapes. So with this hatch applied, and I can go to the little preferences tool, you can see it's a square 1/16 of an inch. If I click on that, we can have a look in our lots of other kind of hatches in the menus, but we can have a look at that in our runtime really. Go back to that. So that's fine with the hatch. So really the attribute mapping tool there. So by clicking on the blue handles, I can resize the hatch or pattern or tile or gradient or anything within here that isn't the solid really, and I can rotate just to get the kind of fill that I need to get within the shape that I've created. So have a little play around with that. It's quite It's quite powerful. You can see here that when the shape becomes small, it's got a repeat function on it, so it just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. So we can get, put that right in the center, bring it down even further, get very, very busy so I went from huge squares there to very, very small ones. So yep, it's just one of those tools to have a play around with, like most of them. A couple more of these tutorials on the basic tool palette, and then we'll move on to something a bit more interesting. So I'll have a play around with that and then come back for the next one.